Hi, and welcome to another episode of Chamber Chat. I'm delighted to be joined by the one, the only, Sean from, and I'm not even going to say your surname because I always get it wrong. Can you actually tell me the pronunciation of your surname?
I say Maher, but officially it's actually Maher. It's an Irish surname, so it's actually Maher. But in this country, a lot of people say Maher.
Okay.
Does annoy me a little bit. So Maher or Maher.
So I'm going to say Sean.
Just stick to Sean.
I'll stick to Sean.
Stick to Sean.
Sean from Hireful. Sean, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Delighted to have you here at Chalk Original Studios. Let's get straight into this. Who are you and where are you from?
So I'm the CEO of Hireful, recruitment software business, offering a lot of recruitment services as well, training, ATS, advertising. There's a lot we do. I've been around a long time.
Been around the block, dare I say?
Into, I think my 18th year at Hireful.
Wow.
Yeah, a different name in the past, but
So let's take a step back then. So tell us a little bit about your upbringing. Born local in Northamptonshire, schooled local. Tell us a little bit about that.
So
Sean.
Northamptonshire, born and bred.
Wow.
Corby.
Nice.
Yeah, so I'm a Corby boy originally. And so, went to Brookweston CTC. So it was a new school at the time. It was a little bit fancy.
Yeah.
Where they had, and what was good with that was I'd gone Corby schools for secondary and for junior school, and infant. But it had people from Corby, Kettering, all the villages. It was good. It was good school. I did okay from it. Got me enough to go to uni. So
You went to uni?
Yeah.
Locally?
De Montfort in Leicester.
How did you find the whole uni experience?
I loved it. Yeah,
5 WKDs for a fiver?
BKs. And you know what? I loved it. I had to work hard. Definitely always had to work hard, really. Even at school, the school I went had a lot of incredibly sharp, intelligent people. There was tests to go in, but that was so they got a fair mix of people. But certainly, I felt like I went to school with geniuses where I had to work hard. Same with uni, had to work hard, both studying, but then also basically was full-time working in pubs, hotels, not nightclubs, but clubs for the football and the rugby. But, so I had good fun.
And what were you studying there, Sean?
So it was a joint degree, business and media.
Okay. So let's fast forward a little bit.
Yeah.
First job after you've left university.
First proper job.
Job.
Was what's now Hireful EasyWeb.
Straight out from uni, straight into...
Yeah. So I was working in a local pub and applying for jobs. I think when I was at uni, I definitely was unsure what I wanted to do. I knew it wouldn't be the media side, but I knew that going to De Montfort because it's not known for its media. I applied for some graduate schemes. Sales was something I was interested in. Definitely, I'd always, even like working in pubs, it's selling. I would end up, when I was at uni, I would run the hotel bar. I was a student. I was looking after the pubs that I worked in. So I always liked that element. I remember I applied for a graduate sales scheme at Enterprise Rent-A-Car.
Yeah, no one.
Yeah, and I think I got like quite far down the stage, and then I remember just being so annoyed when I didn't get the job. So sales I knew I wanted to do, but I came back to Northamptonshire mainly for an ex-girlfriend, so back local. And then I realised there wasn't a lot out there locally, certainly at the time.
I thought you were going to say girlfriends. all right, that's fine.
There wasn't a lot of work, and I seen this job advertised, trainee sales for the company was Verticality, but it was a new brand, EasyWeb, and it was minimum wage. Didn't sound fantastic, but it was local, and they had put it as a grad scheme. It definitely wasn't. And I remember chatting to a guy in the pub I was working at saying, I just don't think this is for me. And I didn't know him that well. And I remember him just saying, you've got to get a proper job. You've gone to uni, go out there, better to do something than nothing. At this stage, go for the interview, give it your best. So I went for the interview with Adrian, who's the founder. A bizarre experience. And then I got invited for a second interview, and this was my second interview. I arrive, and he says, have you prepared your presentation? And I said, what presentation? And he was like, did I not tell you about the presentation? I said, no. And he just gave me and it wasn't on purpose. It would actually be a good tactic for an interview, but he gave me a pad and paper and basically said, yeah, I'll give you 15 minutes, just present on anything, you know?
Wow.
And so I remember just thinking, like, what am I confident in? And it was the pub that I'd been working in. We were sort of building it up. It'd been closed for a while, and there's lots of things we had done to get customers back in. So I knew I could talk about that confidently. So that's what I did in front of like a panel of 4 people, you know, and just did my presentation, got offered the job, and it was just cold calling, really. It was just picking up the phone every day. There was 3 of us doing it, all young lads. It was very sales environment, but very quickly it was quite unique what we were offering at the time. So it was amazing. I remember within a couple of months having a meeting with the HR director at Next Retail, you know, and I was this spotty grad that didn't know much about recruitment at all, meeting the HR director of Next. And then I seen that retail was a sector for me. So I started focusing on retail. And then at the time, some people will know these names, some won't, but Woolworths, Dixons, I was just getting in front of them all, and it sort of just spiraled from there, really.
So I just want to touch on that a little bit, Sean, because sales is something very close to my heart.
Yeah.
And there can be this perception sometimes that it almost feels like that sales is a dirty word nowadays, almost.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would use a hashtag ABC, always be closing. I think it's something that everybody should be doing.
Yeah.
What would be your advice to somebody coming in and their first job as a sales environment in terms of what one tip could you give them?
I think sales is tough. You know, sales has changed a lot. Even since COVID, I think it's changed again, where you struggle to get hold of people. You can't even phone up an office and get through to people now. I think research who you're trying to sell to. Absolutely. Because people are actually open to being sold to in the right way, in a consultative way, if it's relevant. So if I look at like myself, I get sales approaches every single day, but some of them I will listen to, a small few, the few that are relevant. But it is hard. I think you have to work hard. But for us anyway, but I think in most sales, it's about researching who you're selling to, identifying the need, and trying not to be over pushy. It takes time. You know, and don't look for a quick sale. There's not many things where you can do a quick sale.
Yeah, what's that old saying? You don't close a sale, you open a relationship. And I think that's exactly what you've just described there. So, joined Hireful, loving the sales environment.
Yeah.
What happened next?
So we grew, we evolved, and then I got more responsibility, certainly working closely with the sales director at the time. Yeah. I started having more responsibility in the business. I remember I was offered to become a director of the business and sit on the board. And I was quite young at the time. This was only after a few years. But I do remember saying, if you think I'll add value, definitely. If you're offering it because I'm doing really well at sales, you don't need to. And they said it's not just because I'm sure a big part of it was I was doing really well at sales, and they wanted to make sure that I'm hanging around. But so yeah, very quickly I was not managing people, but definitely taking a leadership role to support, working closely with the sales director. Then I became commercial director, which essentially when eventually that became like the sales director.
And what sort of time frame was this? So what's the year we're talking, Sean?
Let's think. I'm awful with timings, but probably 2015, maybe 20,
give or take.
Yeah, give or take. And then there was a big change within Hireful, where our sales director had become MD, but then he moved on, and then I had the opportunity to take on the role of CEO. And still to this day, though, I would say, so that the strategy of the business falls to me and the leadership team, but there's still very much a big emphasis on the commercial side of things. The sales side of things is still a big passion of mine. We don't have a sales director. The sales team reporting to myself. So my time is split really between looking after the sales team, key strategic partnerships, because I still love the sales. You know, I really do. That's what excites me, building relationships, building partnerships. But then, of course, the figures, the revenue, the targets, essentially, they come down to myself to make sure we're hitting them.
I think that accountability, what you talk about there, is absolutely the key, and ownership. And talk a lot there about going from sales, becoming that CEO.
Yeah.
What was the biggest challenge you faced from being in that sort of commercial sales role to then now being the chief exec of Hireful?
I think if I go back a little bit more, the biggest challenge I had earlier in my career was being one of the sales team, being one of the team, and then moving into that leadership role, because you have to make hard decisions, you have to lead in the right way, but then it's my mates, it's my friends. So I think that was a challenge. And then more recently, I guess the jump to CEO and overall running of the business, I guess it was just finding that balance, because we are a lean business as well. And probably something I still struggle with really is, I don't give 100% time to the strategy of the business and the running of the business, because I'm still very much a key part in driving sales, driving performance. So I think getting that balance right is always a big challenge. I've always had a challenge of getting the balance right, because I love it and I'm kind of obsessed with it and I want to do a lot. So I think the big light bulb moment in the last few years, probably more like 2019, I think I started delegating better. I started letting things go. I started realize I can't be involved in every decision. I need to work to my strengths and then also trust the right people to lead. And with that, we started hiring more experience into the business. So I'm really proud that a lot of people in the business have grown within it. But actually, there were some key areas that we had to go external to get some head offs in. So I wasn't operating as head of everything almost.
It's hard to let go, though, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Very
It
hard.
is.
And the fact that you could recognise that, I think, Sean, is testament to your leadership. So we're on that journey. Everything seems to be going well.
Yeah.
Pandemic hits.
Yeah.
What happens next?
Do you know, that was, professionally tough. Definitely the toughest time I've ever had, because it was the uncertainty initially. My biggest passion, genuinely, is people. It's people of the business. And I remember we had to make some tough decisions during that time. And I think we did it in the right way. But that was tough. But I remember, being completely honest, I remember being in my living room watching the news when furlough was announced and getting emotional. I remember literally, I can picture it now. My wife was with a friend and I stood a bit forward, because at one point, because it felt like it happened all so quickly. You could hear things building, but then suddenly it was a case of, right, we need to start thinking, how long do you have for payroll and what have you, and we're in a good position. However, we are an investment. We invest heavily back into the product. It's software. It's an expensive game. And I just remember thinking, we've just grown. We've hired a lot of people late 2019. So the uncertainty, I wasn't as concerned about business, because we had contracts in place. You can afford to stand still for a period of time, but we did have a lot of mouths to feed. There was people talking to me about, there was a colleague who was buying a house, because everyone didn't understand the seriousness of it. And I remember the day we were announcing that everybody has to leave the office basically and work from home. In the morning, somebody was talking about how they were putting in an offer on a house and things like that. And it was trying not to put fear into people, but, realizing that they rely on you a lot. So it was tough. But then I actually enjoyed a lot of COVID eventually, in the sense that we had a smaller team. We had a lot of people on furlough. Again, going back to sales. So there was a handful of us doing sales, me being one of them. And we just kept doing what we were doing, which was free events. Let's do more webinars, more content, so that we're there, so that people can see us, that we're a lot of our competitors you just didn't hear anything from for months on end. And we came out of it in a strong position, really. And things moved for us. we did okay during COVID. It was just that first I don't know, it must have been weeks really, where it was tough, and you're starting to think about, well, you know, if we're going to be quieter if we're going to not really be winning business for a long time, what do you do? And we had to make some hard decisions as well.
It sounds like you've had to adapt, pivot where was needed. And it looks like you've done that through them difficult times.
Yeah.
You mentioned people, and I know your passion for people. Funny enough, behind the camera is Molly, who's our marketing exec at the Chamber, formerly of Hireful.
Yep.
And she speaks really, really fondly of the culture that she found at Hireful.
Yeah.
What sort of initiatives do you guys do at Hireful to firstly attract people and secondly provide that work-life balance?
So attracting people, we do the normal things, which is obviously going out to market, but we try and really sell ourselves. So it's more about selling ourselves than the job itself, because when someone's looking for a job, more often than not, they'll have multiple options. And if you focus so much on the job, unless it's something very unique, there'll be so much crossover. So our focus is getting people to look at Hireful, look at what our employees are saying. So we have our engagement survey on our careers site, look at our Instagram page. There's, you know, we're not all over it. We do updates every now and again, but you can get a real feel for the culture, the people. We have snippets of interviews with all the managers so they can listen to a little bit about what the managers are saying. So really for us, it's about how do we sell Hireful as a place to work. Yeah. And we've done really well with that. We get a lot of approaches, and you know, when we're not recruiting, we just tag them up, go back to them, still give them a good experience. So usually when it comes to recruiting, we can go to people that have already expressed an interest. So that's how we go about that. Then in regards to internally, I think the main thing is just actually caring. Yeah. I think actually caring about your employees. And that doesn't mean just it doesn't mean throw loads of money at the situation. I think that's what a lot of people think. You have to spend a lot to keep people happy. But if I look at the things people like at Hireful, it's often, and it's about listening to what others do and take their ideas. I remember having a meeting with Hasbro, who I think they make Monopoly and stuff. And she said they offered a day off on your birthday. And now a lot of people do that now. At the time, I hadn't heard that before. This is a long time ago. So I was like, oh, we could do that, and it doesn't cost any money.
Don't get any ideas, please.
And so we do a half day. We do a half day off on your birthday, and people love that. It's a team thing, but every Christmas, and if there's an Olympics on or World Cup, we do like the Christmas buffet, the Olympic buffet, charity days. It's all soft stuff, but it actually, I think it makes an impact. So it's just little things can make the difference. We do the dough department. They're a local business. Yeah. I don't know if they're a member. If not, they should be. We'll tag them in. You know, we get them to come a couple of times a year, just set up their van. It doesn't cost a lot of money. It costs probably £300-400, and they just do pizza until you can't eat no more. And it gets everybody into the office, which is a hard thing to do these days. It's rare we have everybody together, and it's just about getting people to mingle. That's what I would say. A lot of the soft stuff, just treat people like, be aware of people's lives, and people have things going on. Some we may know, some we may not. So the biggest benefit of post-COVID era I really like is that, you know, if someone's we did this before, but I think people would take time off. But if somebody's got family and their child's in the sports day, you don't miss sports day. You don't, you know, you've got to do these things. So just back work-life balance, back family life. And, you know, if you've got we've got a lad who used to play football a lot, and he'd need to finish a bit early, and it's okay. You know, everyone, as long as everyone's working hard and you trust everyone to do their job. So just treat people right. It's not that hard. I hate companies that don't treat their employees right. I think it's just madness, because that affects output. If you treat people right, you get a really good output, and it's a nice place to go into.
I think what shines through there, Sean, listening to you, is your passion for people. And I think the fact that you've earned the stripes, you've started off doing sales and you've been in that seat, I think that goes a long, long way. Which then brings to me, we've talked about people, spoke about culture, which is the key. Hireful do a lot in the community, and the community in Northamptonshire, which I think is the best in the land, live it and breathe it. Previously, you've been a board director at the Chamber, been involved with various schools, etc. Why is community so important to not just yourself, but Hireful in general?
I think it's like a duty. I think if we employ lots of people locally who are educated locally, whose family live locally, whose future family will live locally. So I think we all have a responsibility to give back. So I think for us, being in Northamptonshire, which we're proud of, we should give back because we benefit hugely from the county, if that makes sense. So for us being recruiters, what can we do? We can go into schools and help people. We can give out advice. We can offer work experience. We've had that a lot in the last couple of years, people coming to us for work experience. Of course, why not? It's good to just give something back. And I think one of the I don't know if it's a changing point. I think we've always been good at doing stuff locally like that. But even, it was one of the Chamber expos not so long ago. It must have been it might have been the first one after COVID, where I said, we need to start using more local businesses as well.
Oh, that was the Park Inn one, wasn't
it?
Yeah.
That's grown in me more, where I started looking into what we use for our hoodies, T-shirts, and I would see that we're using a company 120 miles away. It's like, well, why are we not using someone local? The difference in price is not going to be that huge, whether it's one way or the other. But we should be supporting local businesses. So I think we've got better at that as a business. But I think we just, if we all do good things, it's just business. Recruitment companies I've often seen as really harsh, but actually, there's loads of brilliant recruitment companies out there doing good things for the local community, and that's what we should do.
I think it's great to hear that, Sean, because it all comes down to social value and social spend.
Yeah.
And if we're going to support our next generation careers and development as a recruitment company, you guys are doing that, as in putting it at the forefront of your activities. Which then leads me to, I'm aware that you guys do a lot of stuff for free.
We do.
Why?
Good question. Sometimes clients or prospective clients will ask that as well. Why is this event free? And I'm always very honest to them, is that our belief is run really good events, put loads of content out there, try and get as many people engaged in it as possible, with the hope that, firstly, they will all see they're good events, it's good content, and then naturally, some of them will look more into what we do. If we run an event, we want to come across as credible, as good people, as honest, knowledgeable, and then naturally, some of them will start exploring what we do in more detail. So when we started running training events, which was 14, 15 years ago, the first one was in Milton Keynes, and we had like 8 people there. And our plan was to run them for a couple of months and then charge. And we never did charge. And the reason we didn't charge was, once you charge for an event, it's harder to get people there. We would rather have 16 people in the room than 8 people paying, because it was never about the revenue. It's our sales tactic, really. Yeah. And it works. And we have cases where we had a few months ago, somebody messaged me on LinkedIn, and they said, I've been coming on your events for 10 years. They were always they were big global companies. And I'm now at a company where I think I can actually use your services. Now, if all of them took 10 years, that would be a problem. But actually, many of them don't. But what it means is we're just planting seeds. We're always there. And then when they move to that small or medium-sized business, there's the chance for us to actually explain what we do sell. Because we will say that, can we let you know about our paid services? And when you take something for free, you're more likely to almost feel like a debt of listening, at least. So, and it works for us, it really does.
A solid pipeline, and more importantly, again, giving back in terms of supporting local business engagement, education, and dare I say, communication. So it all stems back to that. I'm going to go a bit off piece now.
Go for it.
Why Man United?
I ask myself that a lot at the moment, but definitely it was being brought up in Corby, there wasn't really a local team. My dad at the time wasn't really into football. So definitely it was Glory Hunter. There's no doubt about it. I got into football. Man United were obviously doing really, really well. So, you know, I have to admit it was Glory Hunting as a kid. And then I adopted Northampton many years later. It was actually, I worked in a pub for like 8 years, and he was a big Northampton fan. So I started going to some Northampton games, and I've had a season ticket there for, God, it must be over 10 years now.
Up the cobblers.
But yeah, so Man U, it's a tough time at the moment, but I don't regret it. We've had good years, and we'll get them again.
Well, it's a pleasure to present you with a bottle of 7-Up. You can sense
waiting for this day.
Might be a Liverpool fan, but what can I say?
Unbelievable.
Enjoy that, Sean.
Thank you very much.
You're not going to get off that lightly. So, we are going to go through a quick fire round.
Oh, no.
So, I'm going to ask you a series of questions.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Let's go.
Shoes or trainers?
Trainers.
Facebook or Instagram?
Instagram.
Northamptonshire or New York?
Northamptonshire.
Oh, no hesitation whatsoever. Costa or Starbucks?
Costa.
Work from home or work from the office?
Work from the office.
Why?
Environment and banter.
Sales. Night in or out?
Out.
That doesn't surprise me. Boyzone or take that?
Take that.
Fish and chips or a curry?
Curry.
Good choice. Adrian or Lewis?
Adrian.
You had to say that one, didn't you? Sorry, Lewis. Sixfields or Old Trafford?
Old Trafford.
Sean, I could sit here and talk to you for hours.
I've enjoyed it.
Absolute,
I've really enjoyed
amazing journey that you're on at Hireful. Chamber look forward to playing a small part, continuing to support your journey. And no guest leaves empty-handed, Sean.
Fantastic.
Chamber chat mug there for you.
Fantastic.
And a pen. Pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.